The space station called Harmony's Rest floated in the darkness between stars. It was old and beautiful. Its metal walls had seen 1,000 years of peace. 17 different species came here to trade and talk. They shared food. They shared ideas. They trusted each other. Ambassador Tvek stood near the large window of his office and looked at the stars. He was a small creature with 6 thin legs and wings like glass. His people were called the Silk Collective. They were gentle beings who made beautiful cloth and loved poetry. Tvek had worked on this station for 30 years. He had never seen violence. He had never known fear. Today would change everything. The first explosion came from the lower docking ring. Tvek felt the floor shake under his feet. He grabbed his desk to stop himself from falling. Alarms began to scream. Red lights flashed on every wall. What is happening? He asked his assistant, a young female named Bora. She was already checking the emergency screens. A freighter crashed in docking bay 7, she said. Her voice was shaking. The ship was carrying medical supplies. Something went wrong with the landing. There is fire. The fire is spreading. Tvek felt his heart beat faster. His species had 2 hearts, and both were pounding now. Activate the fire systems. Seal the damaged sections. Get everyone to safety. Bora's fingers moved quickly over the controls. Then she stopped. Her face went pale. Ambassador, the fire systems are not working. The crash damaged the main control center. We cannot stop the fire. We cannot seal the doors. The smoke is spreading to the living areas. Tvek ran to the window that looked down at the station. He could see smoke rising from the lower levels. Orange flames danced behind broken windows. Small figures were running through the corridors below. Some of them fell and did not get up. How many people are on the station? He asked. 3,247, Bora answered, including 400 children in the education center. Tvek closed his eyes. The education center was on level 12. Level 12 was directly above the fire. The escape pods, he said. Launch all escape pods. I tried, Bora said. She was crying now, her tears falling like small diamonds. The power failure affected the pod systems. Only half of them will open. Ambassador, we do not have enough pods for everyone. Tvek walked to the communication station. His legs felt weak. His wings trembled. But he was the ambassador. He was responsible for every life on this station. He would not give up. Send a distress signal, he ordered. Send it on every frequency. Someone must hear us. Someone must come. Bora activated the emergency broadcast system. Tvek leaned close to the microphone. He took a deep breath and spoke. This is Ambassador Tvek of the Galactic Council Station Harmony's Rest. We have a critical emergency. Fire is destroying our station. Our safety systems have failed. We have over 3,000 beings trapped. Many are children. We need immediate help. Please, if anyone can hear this message, we are dying. Please come. He sent the message into the void of space. Then he waited. The minutes passed like hours. The smoke grew thicker. Through his window, Tvek watched as more sections of his station turned orange with flame. He could hear screaming from the corridors. Parents calling for children. Workers trying to break down doors. The sounds of a world ending. No one answered the distress call. There are no council ships within range, Bora reported. The nearest military vessel is 6 hours away. We will not survive 6 hours. Tvek lowered his head. He had failed. All these people had trusted the council to protect them. They had come here believing they were safe. And now they would die in fire and smoke, alone in the darkness between stars. Then the communication screen flickered. A voice came through. It was strange. The accent was unlike anything Tivek had heard before. The speaker was using Galactic Common, but the words sounded rough in their mouth, like they had learned the language from books. Station harmonies rest. This is the survey vessel Baekdu. We received your distress signal. We are 40 minutes from your location. We are coming to help. Tivek stared at the screen. Survey vessel? What species are you? What is your military capability? There was a pause. Then the voice spoke again. We are humans. From a planet called Earth. We are not military. We are scientists and engineers. 12 crew members. But we have medical supplies and cutting tools. We can help. Tivek had never heard of humans. He had never heard of Earth. The Galactic Council had contact with over 200 species. Humans were not one of them. Your ship is small, Tivek said. The fire is very large. You could die trying to reach us. Another pause. When the humans spoke again, there was something strange in their voice. It took Tivek a moment to understand what it was. It was confusion. The human did not understand why Tivek was warning them. They did not understand why their own death mattered when others needed help. We know, the human said simply. We are coming anyway. Hold on. Help is coming. The communication ended. Tivek turned to Bora. She was looking at him with wide eyes. Who are these humans? She asked. Why would strangers risk death for people they have never met? Tivek did not have an answer. He only knew that somewhere in the darkness, 12 unknown beings were flying toward fire and death to save people who had never even heard their name. He did not know if they would arrive in time. He did not know if they could truly help. But for the first time since the explosion, Ambassador Tivek felt something he had almost forgotten. He felt hope. The ship called Baekdu was small and gray. It was not beautiful like council vessels. It had no weapons. It had no shields. It was a simple survey ship designed to study rocks and collect samples from dead worlds. But inside that small ship were 12 humans who had made a decision. Captain Park Do-hyun stood at the front of the bridge and watched the burning station grow larger on the screen. He was a tall man with short black hair and calm eyes. He had been a ship captain for 15 years. He had never faced anything like this. How bad is it? He asked. His pilot, a young woman named Han Sora, checked her instruments. The station's hull temperature is 400 degrees in some sections. The air inside is filled with toxic chemicals. Most species would die in minutes. Most species, Do-hyun repeated. He looked at his crew. 11 faces looked back at him. They were scientists, engineers, doctors. They were not soldiers. They had families waiting for them back on Earth. You all know what I am about to ask, he said. That station has over 3,000 people. They are dying. We are the only ship close enough to help. But going in there could kill us. I will not order anyone to do this. This is a choice. The bridge was silent for a moment. Then Lieutenant Yoon Jae-soo stepped forward. She was the ship's medic, a woman with kind eyes and steady hands. She had treated injuries on mining stations and research bases across the galaxy. She had never let fear stop her. Captain, she said, I became a doctor to save lives. If I turn away now, what was the point? One by one, the others spoke. Engineer Choi Min-jae, Navigator Kim Yuna, Communications Officer Lee Tai-ho. Every single crew member volunteered. Not one person asked to stay behind. Do-hyun felt pride fill his chest. These were his people. This was what humans did. Then let us go to work, he said. Sora, dock us at the nearest stable port. Everyone else, grab emergency gear. We move fast and we move together. The Baekdu approached the burning station. Council observers on nearby ships watched in disbelief. They had seen the temperature readings. They knew the air inside was poison. No sane species would enter that place. The human ship docked anyway. The airlock opened with a hiss of pressure. Smoke poured in immediately. It was thick and black and smelled of burning metal. The humans pulled on their EVA suits and sealed their helmets. These suits were designed for the vacuum of space, not for fire. They would provide limited protection at best. Jisoo led the first team through the door. The heat hit her like a wall. Her suit's temperature warning screamed in her ear. She ignored it. Through the smoke, she could see shapes moving. People crawling on the floor. People crying for help. Medical team, focus on the injured, she ordered through her radio. Engineering team, find the fire suppression controls and see if you can fix them. Everyone else, start evacuating survivors to the docking bay. The humans spread out into the burning corridors. Ambassador Tivek watched from a security camera that still worked. His eyes went wide. He could not believe what he was seeing. The humans moved through smoke that would have killed his species in seconds. Their skin turned red from the heat. Sweat poured down their faces. But they did not stop. They did not slow down. How are they surviving? Bora whispered beside him. An old scholar named Ven, who had spent his life studying different species, watched the screen with trembling hands. I have read about worlds like theirs, he said. Planets where the gravity crushes your bones, where the air itself burns your lungs, where poison rains from the sky. We call such places Deathworlds. And the creatures that survive there, he paused. We call them Deathworlders. On the screen, they watched a human male pick up a fallen alien twice his size and carry it over his shoulder like it weighed nothing. They watched a human female kick down a metal door that had been sealed by heat. They watched humans breathe toxic air and keep moving, keep fighting, keep saving lives. Their bodies are designed for suffering, Ben continued. They heal from wounds that would kill us. Their bones are thick as stone. They can function in heat and cold that would destroy any of our species. They are the most dangerous creatures in the known galaxy. Tivek watched as a human man named Minjae reached a group of children trapped behind a fallen beam. The man grabbed the hot metal with his bare hands. His skin burned. Blood ran down his arms. But he lifted the beam anyway, screaming with effort, and held it up while the children ran to safety. If they are so dangerous, Tivek said quietly, why are they saving us? Ven had no answer. Down in the burning corridors, Jisoo found a medical bay filled with injured aliens. Their wounds were severe. Burns, broken bones, smoke in their lungs. She had 12 patients and limited supplies. I need help here, she called into her radio. Her crewmate, a young man named Bak Junho, appeared at her side. He was an engineer, not a doctor. But he had steady hands and he listened well. Tell me what to do, he said. For the next hour, they worked together. Jisoo gave instructions. Junho followed them perfectly. They bandaged burns. They gave oxygen to beings who could not breathe. They held the hands of those who were afraid. One patient, a small creature with feathered wings, looked up at Jisoo with terrified eyes. What are you? It asked. Jisoo smiled behind her helmet. Her face was red with heat. Her suit was melting in places. But her voice was gentle. We are humans, she said. We are here to help. You are going to be okay. The creature stared at her for a long moment. Then it did something unexpected, Don. It reached out with one small wing and touched her hand. Thank you, it whispered. Thank you for coming. Jisoo felt tears in her eyes. She blinked them away. There was no time for tears. There were more lives to save. Somewhere in the burning station, hope was spreading. The aliens whispered to each other about the strange creatures who walked through fire. The Deathworlders who came not to destroy, but to save. The humans did not hear these whispers. They were too busy working. That was just who they were. The fire had been burning for 2 hours. The rescue teams from the Baekdu had saved over 500 people. But deep in the station's core, where the heat was worst, there were still people trapped. Engineer Choi Min-jae stood at the entrance to Corridor 7. The metal walls glowed orange. The air shimmered with heat. His suit's computer told him the temperature was over 500 degrees. No human should go in there. But through the smoke, he could hear crying. "What is down there?" He asked into his radio. The voice of communications officer Lee Tae-oh answered. "According to station records, there is a nursery at the end of that corridor. It belongs to the Silk Collective. Their young ones are very fragile. They cannot survive heat or smoke." Min-jae felt his stomach turn cold. Children. There were children trapped in that burning hallway. How many? He asked. 43 larvae and 6 adult caretakers. Min-jae looked at the corridor. A structural beam had fallen, blocking most of the path. The only way through was a maintenance shaft in the wall. It was barely wide enough for a human body. The metal would be burning hot. "I am going in," he said. "Min-jae, wait." Captain Do-yoon's voice came through the radio. "Your suit is already damaged. If you go in there, you might not come out." Min-jae closed his eyes. He thought about his mother back on Earth. He thought about his younger sister, who always made him laugh. He thought about all the things he still wanted to do with his life. Then he thought about 43 children who would die if he did nothing. "Captain," he said, "if I do not try, I cannot live with myself. Please understand." There was silence on the radio. Then he spoke. "I understand. Be careful, Min-jae. Come back to us." Min-jae removed his damaged EVA suit. The outer layer was already melting. It would only slow him down. He was now wearing just his basic uniform. He took a piece of wet cloth from his emergency kit and wrapped it around his face. Then he entered the maintenance shaft. The pain was immediate. The metal burned through his clothes. His hands blistered as he crawled forward. His knees scraped against hot steel. Every movement was agony. But he kept going. He pulled himself through the narrow space, inch by inch, breath by breath. The shaft seemed to go on forever. Smoke filled his lungs. His eyes watered. He could barely see, but he could still hear the crying ahead. That sound pulled him forward when his body wanted to stop. Finally, he reached the end of the shaft. He pushed open a panel and fell into the nursery. The room was full of smoke, but the fire had not reached here yet. Small bodies lay on beds along the walls. The larvae of the Silk Collective looked like tiny cocoons wrapped in silver thread. They were beautiful and terribly fragile. 6 adult caretakers stood in the center of the room. They were moth-like creatures with soft wings and gentle faces. When they saw Min-jae emerge from the wall, they screamed. He understood why. He was a nightmare to them. A giant creature covered in burns and blood, his skin red and torn, his eyes wild from pain. He looked like a monster from their worst dreams. "Please," he said in broken galactic common. His throat was raw from smoke. "I help. I am here to help." The caretakers pressed themselves against the far wall. They were shaking with fear. Min-jae did not have time to explain. The fire was spreading. He could hear it coming closer. He walked to the nearest bed and looked down at the small larva sleeping there. "I carry," he said softly. "I take them to safety. Please trust me." One caretaker, an older female with worn wings, stepped forward. Her name was Pira. She had cared for children of her species for 50 years. She had seen many things in her life, but she had never seen anything like this burned, bleeding creature who had crawled through fire to reach them. "Why?" she asked. "Why would you hurt yourself for children who are not yours?" Minjay looked at her. Despite the pain, despite the burns covering his body, he smiled. "Where I come from," he said, "all children are ours." Pyrrha stared at him for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "Take them," she said. "Save our babies." Minjay picked up the first larva. It was light as a feather. He cradled it against his chest and moved back to the maintenance shaft. The journey back was even worse. He had to protect the delicate creature while crawling through burning metal. His arms screamed with pain, but he made it. He handed the larva to waiting hands and turned back. 42 more trips. That was what he faced. 42 more crawls through that burning tunnel. Each time, his body broke a little more. His hands stopped hurting because the nerves were dead. His knees left blood on the metal. His lungs felt like they were filled with broken glass. But he kept going, trip after trip, child after child. The caretakers watched in wonder as this strange alien returned again and again. He never stopped. He never complained. He just kept saving their children. On the 35th trip, Minjay collapsed halfway through the shaft. His body simply refused to move. He lay there in the burning darkness, holding a larva against his chest, and thought about giving up. Then he felt the small creature move. It made a soft sound like a baby bird. It was scared. It needed him. Minjay started crawling again. By the time rescue teams from other council ships finally arrived, Minjay had made all 43 trips. Every single larva was safe. The 6 caretakers had been carried out by his crewmates, who had finally cut through the blocked corridor. Minjay lay on the floor of the docking bay, surrounded by medical teams. His hands were wrapped in bandages. His legs could not move. He had burns on over 60% of his body, but he was smiling. Pyrrha, the old caretaker, knelt beside him. Tears fell from her large, dark eyes onto his burned skin. "You saved them all," she whispered. "You saved every single child. Why? Why would you suffer so much for strangers?" Minjay looked up at her. His voice was barely a whisper. "Because they were scared," he said. "And I could help. That is all that matters." Pyrrha lowered her head and touched her forehead to his hand. It was the highest gesture of respect in her culture. "I was wrong about your kind," she said. "I thought you were monsters. But you are something else entirely." Minjay closed his eyes. The pain was fading. The darkness was coming. "Where are we?" he asked. Pyrrha looked at this broken, beautiful creature who had given everything for children, not his own. "You are hope," she said. "You are hope with gentle hands." Minjay smiled one more time. Then he fell unconscious. He would wake up 3 days later as the most famous human in the galaxy. But that was a story for another time. The emergency was over. The fires were out. The dead had been counted and mourned. Now it was time for the Galactic Council to understand what had happened. 3 days after the disaster, representatives from 47 species gathered in the Great Hall of the Council's capital world. The room was massive, built to hold thousands. Today, every seat was full. Everyone wanted to hear about the humans. Ambassador Tivek stood at the central platform. He looked tired. He had not slept much since the fire. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw smoke and flames. But he also saw something else. He saw 12 strangers walking into death to save lives. "Thank you all for coming," he began. "I have called this emergency session to discuss a matter of great importance. 3 days ago, my station was burning. Over 3,000 people were trapped. We sent a distress signal, expecting no answer." He paused. An answer came. 12 beings from a planet called Earth responded to our call. They were not military. They had no weapons. They were scientists and engineers on a small survey ship. But they came anyway. They walked into fire and smoke that would have killed any of us. and they saved over 2,000 lives. Murmurs spread through the Great Hall. Many representatives had heard rumors. Now they wanted facts. A tall figure stood. He was General Korvac of the Dominion, a species known for their strength and hunting skills. The Dominion had always believed that they were the most powerful beings in the galaxy. "We have studied the medical reports," Korvac said. His voice was deep and rough. "These humans are remarkable. Their planet has gravity 50% stronger than average. Their atmosphere contains a gas that burns living tissue slowly. They call it oxygen. They breathe this poison every moment of their lives." He held up a data pad. "Their bones are 4 times denser than ours. They can survive temperature changes that would stop our hearts. They heal from wounds in days that would take us months. And their blood contains iron. Iron, a metal. They use it to carry oxygen through their bodies." The hall went silent. Iron blood. Poison breath. Bones like stone. "By every measure," Korvac continued, "humans are the most physically dangerous species we have ever encountered. They come from a death world. They are Deathworlders." Fear spread through the representatives. The word Deathworlder was used in stories to scare children. It meant a creature from a world so deadly that survival required becoming deadly yourself. Then Korvac did something unexpected. He smiled. "And yet," he said, "when these dangerous creatures found the weak and helpless, they did not hunt. They did not kill. They protected." He turned to face the entire council. "I have been a warrior for 30 years. I have fought in battles across the galaxy. I believed that strength meant the power to destroy. But these humans have shown me something different. They used their strength to save. They suffered pain beyond anything we can imagine, not to conquer, but to protect strangers." He bowed his head. "I am humbled. The Dominion is humbled. These humans are not our enemies. They are something we do not have a word for." Another representative stood. She was Elder Virus of the Whisper Collective, a species known for their wisdom and long lives. She had served on the council for 200 years. "I spoke with the human captain," she said. "Bardoyan. I asked him why his crew risked death for people they had never met. Do you know what he said?" She paused, letting the question hang in the air. He looked at me with confusion. He did not understand my question. To him, it was obvious. He said, "They needed help. We could help. What else would we do?" Elder Varys spread her hands. "For them, this is not heroism. This is normal. This is just what humans do." Ambassador Tivek stepped forward again. "I have spoken with many survivors from my station. They all tell similar stories. A human woman who carried children through burning corridors. A human man who held up a collapsing beam with his bare hands while others escaped. A human doctor who treated patients for 6 hours without rest, even as her own suit melted around her." He looked around the great hall. These beings were strangers to us. We had never heard of their world. We had never heard of their species. But when we called for help, they came. They did not ask what we could pay them. They did not ask if we would be grateful. They simply came. The hall was completely silent now. "I move," Tivek said, his voice strong, "that the Galactic Council offer humanity full membership. Not as a species to be watched or feared, but as partners, as protectors, as friends." The vote took less than 1 minute. Every single representative raised their hand in favor. It was unanimous. Later that day, news spread across the galaxy. A new species had been discovered. They called themselves humans. They came from a death world. They had iron in their blood and poison in their breath. They were stronger and faster and more dangerous than almost any known species. And they had used all that power to save strangers from fire, on ships and stations across the galaxy, People talked about the humans. Some were afraid. That was natural. Deathworlders were terrifying, but most felt something different. Most felt relief. Most felt hope, because now they knew something important. If they were ever in trouble, if they were ever hurt, if they ever needed help, the humans would come. These strange, dangerous, wonderful creatures would come running through fire and death to save them, not because they had to, because that was who they were. The galaxy had found its protectors, and the protectors had gentle hands. 6 months had passed since the fire on Harmony's Rest. The galaxy had changed. News of humanity had spread to every corner of known space. Stories were told. Songs were sung. And today, history would be made. The capital world of the Galactic Council was covered in celebration. Millions of beings had gathered to witness the moment when humanity would officially join the family of galactic civilizations. Ships filled the sky. Music played in the streets. Children of 100 species waved banners with pictures of the human rescuers at the center of it all. In the great hall where the council met, 12 humans stood together. Captain Park Do-hyun looked at his crew. They had been through so much in these 6 months. Interviews, medical treatments, meetings with leaders from across the galaxy. They were simple people who had done what felt right. Now they were being called heroes. Lieutenant Yoon Ji-soo stood at his right. Her arm was still wrapped in bandages from her burns. She would carry scars for the rest of her life. But she smiled anyway. She had saved over 200 people in that burning station. Every scar was worth it. Engineer Choi Min-jae sat in a wheelchair near the front. His legs were healing slowly. The doctor said he might walk again with time. But even if he never did, he had no regrets. 43 children were alive because of him. Every night, before he slept, he thought of their small sleeping faces. That memory was better than walking. The other crew members stood in a line behind them. Han Sora, Lee Tae-ho, Bak Jun-ho, Kim Yoona, and the rest. Each of them had stories. Each of them had saved lives. Each of them was nervous about speaking in front of millions. Ambassador Tivik approached the platform. His wings shimmered in the light. He had worked hard to make this day possible. He had fought against representatives who feared humanity. He had argued with officials who wanted to study humans like dangerous animals. In the end, he had won. Humanity would be welcomed as equals. Friends, Tivek said, his voice carried by speakers throughout the hall and across the galaxy. We gather today to celebrate a new beginning. 6 months ago, we met a species we had never known. They came to us not as conquerors, not as traitors, not as diplomats. They came as rescuers. They came as friends. He gestured to the humans. These 12 individuals represent the best of their kind. But I have learned something important in these months. What they did was not special by human standards. It was not unusual. Throughout their history, humans have run into burning buildings to save strangers. They have dived into freezing water to pull out drowning children. They have stood between the weak and the dangerous, again and again, because that is simply who they are. He turned to face Captain Do-hyun. Captain, would you like to address the council? Do-hyun felt his heart beating fast. He was not a speaker. He was a ship captain. He knew how to give orders and read star charts. He did not know how to give speeches to millions of aliens, but he walked to the platform anyway. He looked out at the sea of faces. So many different species. So many different worlds. All watching him. All waiting. He took a deep breath. I am not good with words, he began. I am a simple man from a small country on a small planet. When we heard your distress signal, we did not think about being heroes. We did not think about making history. We just thought about the people who needed help. He paused. Where I come from, There is a saying. When you see someone drowning, you do not ask if they are good or bad. You just jump in. That is all we did. We jumped in. He looked at his crew. Jisoo nodded at him with encouragement. Minjae gave him a tired smile. You call us Deathworlders. I understand why. Our planet is harsh. It has tried to kill us many times. Earthquakes, floods, ice ages, diseases, but we survived. Not because we were the strongest or the fastest. We survived because we learned to help each other. His voice grew stronger. A human alone is weak, but humans together can move mountains. We learned that lesson a long time ago. We learned that the strong must protect the weak. We learned that suffering alone is torture, but suffering together is bearable. We learned that life is precious because it is fragile. He looked directly into the cameras that were broadcasting his image across the galaxy. You do not need to fear us. We do not want to conquer your worlds. We do not want to take your resources. We just want what everyone wants. Friends, family, a place in the universe. And when our friends are in trouble, we want to help. That is all. That is who we are. He stepped back from the platform. The great hall was silent for a long moment. Then Pyrrha, the old caretaker from the Silk Collective, rose from her seat. In her arms, she held a small creature. It was one of the larvae that Minjae had saved. In 6 months, it had grown into a beautiful young being with silver wings that caught the light. This is my granddaughter, Pyrrha said. She is alive because of that man in the wheelchair. He crawled through fire 43 times to save children who were not his own. He did not know their names. He did not know their families. He just knew they were afraid. She walked to Minjae's wheelchair and knelt beside him. I used to believe that Deathworlders were monsters. I taught my children to fear them. I was wrong. These humans are not monsters. They are something better. They are proof that strength and kindness can exist together. That power does not have to mean cruelty. She placed her granddaughter in Minjae's arms. The small creature looked up at his scarred face and laughed. Thank you, Pyrrha whispered. Thank you for teaching an old woman that the universe is better than she thought. Minjae held the child gently. Tears ran down his burned face. He could not speak. He did not need to. Ambassador Tivik raised his hand. All in favor of welcoming humanity to the Galactic Council. Raise your hands now. Across the Great Hall. Across the capital world. Across the galaxy. Beings raised their hands. Every single one. It was unanimous. Again, humanity was no longer alone in the universe. They had found their place among the stars. That night, there was a celebration unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Music played. Food was shared. Stories were told. Humans danced with aliens under 3 moons. Captain Do-yoon stood on a balcony overlooking the festivities. He held a cup of something that tasted like honey and starlight. He had never been much for parties. But tonight, he allowed himself to enjoy it. Jisoo joined him. Big day, she said. Yes, he agreed. Do you think we deserve all this? Do-hyun thought about the question. He thought about the fire. He thought about the fear. He thought about his crew, who had followed him into death without hesitation. I think, he said slowly, that we just did what felt right. The galaxy can call it whatever they want. Jisoo smiled. Heroes, Deathworlders, protectors. She raised her cup. But we know the truth. We are just people. People who help. They touched cups and drank together. Below them, the celebration continued. Humans and aliens laughed and played and learned each other's names. Somewhere in the crowd, a small child with silver wings held onto the hand of a burned engineer. She did not see a monster. She did not see a Deathworlder. She saw the man who had saved her life. And that was all that mattered.